Hey everybody, Jonathan Broadbent here, your host of UnWoke Academy and founder and creator of the Financial PMA, first financial PMA on the planet. Go over to financialpma.com, check things out. That is now new, up and running, and in addition to the all the UnWoke stuff that we're doing, and it ties in quite nicely. So I want to dive into a few things that I've brought to the table today here to discuss to help people to go unwoke and find a better life for themselves and a better future for the country and the world. But first, a tip of the hat to our friends over at OBBM Network. Great partners and good friends. They actually are the ones that helped us to launch. And one of the things you'll notice different about today's episode, utilizing our green screen here, I have some stuff that I'm going to talk about. You can probably guess where I'm headed with all this debacle of nonsense back behind me. But actually, if it weren't for our friends over at OBBM Network, I wouldn't know how to set up a green screen appropriately to be able to do this sort of thing. So the technology, great insights, and great feedback and encouragement. Check out OBBM Network. You can find this content and stuff like it. They stream online, and there's also a Roku app. So without further ado, a few things. Everything's coming together, not nearly as fast as we all wish it was, but it's coming together. We are building parallel universe, parallel economy for the world of finance and really virtually everything out there to try to untangle the tentacles of government overreach into our daily lives. So I want to put that in a context that's meaningful. We're all aware of what happened during COVID, the COVID fear and the fiasco of mandated stuff, and everybody has to have jabs and then booster jabs and then booster jabs and then 9 jabs and 10 jabs, whatever. I've lost track of what some people, my heart goes out to those people and those families subjected to that stuff. But that led to a lot of things. It led to a lot of awareness of just how corrupted and bad governments have become, including and certainly kind of especially the United States government. Because, well, the timing of COVID was suspect, to say the least. I won't go into that rabbit hole we're in of just what happened when and by whom, and then what we were told and later turned out to be lies, etc. Just suffice it to say that the world of finance absolutely works the same way. It is a top-down, hierarchical, it's a power and money grab. And it is designed to corral people into unproductive, harmful, and damaging far-left woke-a-doodle nonsense. So in that way, the world of finance is remarkably similar to the horribleness that we saw from COVID. But a few things, kind of all at once. The first is for my career, I had a niche in the world of finance, and that really left me to kind of shape certain institutional things, and I interacted with a lot of major institutional players, money managers, big Wall Street firms, banks, accounting firms, law firms, etc. And that, for me, was a pretty comfortable career. And then I left my comfort zone. I left my comfort zone because I saw what's happening to our country, and I'm not okay with it. I saw the first thing for me, everyone sort of seems to have their launch off, but the launching point, where they realize that things aren't right. For me, that was in K-12 education. I spent quite a bit of time, some years, very involved in advocating for the pursuit of academic excellence, which should be a common sense thing that we would all agree on, but the woke left invaded K-12, financed heavily by teachers' unions, and they fight tooth and nail not to allow education into education. It's bad craziness. But from there, that led to involvement in a number of different things, and I started to really clearly see undue influence and what I call a lurch to the left. There is a term that fits here, although the term I've found in conversation is often misunderstood, and that is the long, slow march. Easy for me to say, the long, slow march. People actually think, or some people that I've talked to think that pertains to like being marched through the woods or whatever into, a death camp or something. Actually, no, the long, slow march refers to the movement of communism or socialism, Marxism, whatever it is, the Marxist-based theory through the institutions. So communism or Marxism, whatever we want to call what we're facing in the West right now, has to make its way through a whole bunch of different institutions and capture them in order to install communism in a country. So it starts with, well, it doesn't always start in the same place, but it involves police and military and hospitals and medicine and logistics and food supply chains and politicians, of course. And when you are marching through and you're replacing the existing sort of society with a new society that's based on communism, a top-down tyrannical government dictatorship, then you have some fights. And that long, slow march is painful. That's where we are. So anyone's welcome to disagree with me. In fact, if you follow me on any social media, you're bound to see lots of people who disagree, and I welcome the arguments because that is where we are. We are in the long, slow march. The people who are installing communism, you can call it, again, there are people that say, want to call it democratic socialism, whatever. That's communism with sprinkles on it. We are partway through that, and don't hang up just yet. Don't tune out. This gets more positive, but I have to get this out first so we have sort of common ground for discussion. So in that march, that lurch to the left, all the institutions have been toppling. So we saw it with healthcare clearly. We've seen it and we're aware of it in education. So there are a lot of people who are fighting for actual education for children and not just race-baited, social, gender theory-based, confused. It's just a mess, the indoctrination that's happening in government-run schools right now. But so when I started to see that taking place and realized where we are and that that's happening through our institutions and certainly finance, where I've made a home and career for myself, I decided to fight back. And it's one of those things where once you start, there isn't any easy, short, abbreviated stopping point because you get into it and you realize how bad things have gotten, including, I'm going to reference back to a previous episode where Justin Bernier joined us from National Security Index. And Justin Bernier talked about exposing that revolving door between Wall Street and Washington, D.C. So again, it occurs to me, I have to back up a step and insert tech and technology. That's huge. It factors in big time in this. So news, media organizations, broadcast, social media, technology, you name it, communism is spreading its tentacles right now. And if you're like a fantasy and sci-fi fan like me, it is the Eye of Sauron. Isn't that it? Yeah, the Eye of Sauron. That is, it's growing its army of the orcs. Sorry, I'm kind of a nerd like that. But I had that comfort zone. And once I left that, I started to venture into figuring out what's wrong and started to question the things that I was seeing. And fortunately for me, and thankfully, I had the type of career that allowed me to very quickly gain access to some pretty high profile people at a number of different financial, legal, accounting types of firms, human resources, et cetera, and start asking questions. And I've said this many times before, a number of times, and I'll say it again. When I first started asking questions several years ago, it was awkward and uncomfortable. We're to the point now where most people, most everybody in whatever the institution, whatever the organization, acknowledges that things are not right. And most of the ones that I talk to sort of breathe a sigh of relief when I call and say, I'm running this thing called UnWoke, where we get to fight back and we don't follow the marching orders and we challenge that long, slow march through the institutions. They're great people all across the country who are doing it. We've got some wonderful teachers, administrators in school districts, even some of the people that do training or in and around education, some teachers union advocates, some actual teachers unions that are not woke, that are not pumping the garbage and transgenderism, sexuality, nonsense and mayhem into K through 12 education. And certainly we've got America's frontline doctors. So what that's led to, and the expression I think that comes to mind is necessity is the mother of invention. We see this stuff and a lot of people, I think instinctually, don't know how to respond. So it's jarring to see suddenly half of America is just kicked off of social media, or huge numbers of news outlets are just shut down overnight, or people are just fired from their jobs because for no good reason. All of that stuff, that's the long, slow march. That's what's happening, and that's why it's there. But those of us who are fighting back, I think I just mentioned America's Frontline Doctors. They're kind of Simone Gold. Dr. Simone Gold is kind of a hero of mine. She set the tone in my book for this sort of thing, to be able to put her foot down and say, no, world, I'm not marching that way. Again, remember, the march is figurative, not literal. So we've created a whole bunch of things. And if you follow my social media, please do. It's all free. I just share it out there, and hopefully people can grab parts of this and run with it and create their own versions and new stuff and build upon this. I'm putting it out there in the ether for everybody to share and talk about. And certainly the left are having their field day, ridiculing me, calling me names and everything. It's all hogwash and nonsense. But we're creating it as fast as we can. And one of the big things that I've made a point of doing is kind of documenting the steps that I'm taking. And recently I've mentioned the example of e-signature. So we all are familiar with a few of the big name electronic signature software. It allows you to open up a document, an agreement or contract or whatever on your side, and apply a virtual signature, so you don't have to meet with somebody in person with a pen and write your name in ink. So those e-signature places, I did some research into them because we built financialpma.com. Don't forget to go there, check it out. But that's one of those places where we had the aha moment and realized this opportunity and ones like it are a chance for us to reevaluate the relationships we have. What companies are woke? Which ones represent harm? Which ones are canceling us? Which ones might threaten to cancel us because their posture and position at the corporate level is super woke-a-doodle, and they don't like people who like the flag and say that there are two genders, and that people who want education and advocate for people to go to school board meetings and fill in the blank, name it, everything, anything, that like the US flag, and anything, it seems, can trigger the left and cause cancellation. Fighting back against CBDC, ESG, and all that woke-a-doodle nonsense. That's another example. So we began fighting back, and I am one of a handful of people I know that several years ago just saw what was wrong in Wall Street and started to push back. Now it's grown a lot. We have great things happening. Well, first of all, don't turn on mainstream legacy media, mainstream news. I have to air quote that. It's not news anymore. It's just pure propaganda. It's the worst. We have people literally who come here from places like communist China, who have escaped communism, and look at American people watching the news, again, that's an air quote, and they're mystified. Like, why do you bother to look at that? Don't you know, it's all just propaganda. Well, some of America hasn't figured that out yet, that we are being manipulated and lied to by the very news organizations that we used to want to trust. Sorry, that's a total tangent. I couldn't help myself. I have to drill on that because I wish we had reliable major mainstream news. But we've got alternatives. There are a ton of people out there who are citizen journalists, and they are working through exposing great stuff. I follow a bunch of them. If you follow me, there are too many to list. Follow me on social media. You'll see the stuff that I'm posting, commenting, and liking, etc. It's a very different way of getting news, but it's actual news. So I got outside of my comfort zone and started to figure out ways to fight back. But here's the thing, and I want to put this in just the right way so that hopefully it really captures your awareness, because it's important. You, my friends, my fellow, wherever you are in the UnWoke scale, interested, curious, whatever it is, you have been funneled into things that if you look at it, I have every expectation you'll realize you are far outside of your comfort zone. That's what all this stuff is. This is the stuff that populates most everybody's investment portfolio. This is the stuff that's your 401k. So your IRA account, your brokerage account, your investment account, your 529 savings plan for your kids' college future, all of that stuff. Most managers, most of them, and I want to be clear, there are some good people out there and there are some good managers who aren't woke, and they don't like this, and they don't like being funneled and told what to do and dictated to. But those are few and far between. The big names, not only are they happily embracing it, they got ahead of the fake branding and the manipulation of that market. They started putting their money into things that they later branded as environmental, social, and governance, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a label they slapped on it so that they could ride the markets and capitalize on being invested in things that they knew were about to be winners. I think winners being a vague term, not winners in the traditional sense of good sound business practices, but winners in terms of the companies that invest those dollars, manipulating the market in ways that they can make money. And remember, that's up and down. There are people out there, and there are a lot of them, that know how to capitalize and get rich on the destruction of companies and the dropping of share price. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's called the options market. So there are people that do options contracts, and they can make money if they know ahead of time that a company is going to be damaged. By the way, hint, hint, for you internet sleuths, look up those companies that have had major national and international bad press recently, over the last couple of years, I should say, and go and look up options contracts and see who is putting puts and betting against those companies. I think we may discover a trend there. And if so, just know that at least in the United States markets, that's actually illegal. That is, it wouldn't surprise people to know that there are laws against that. If you are acting against a company in knowledge and anticipation of market movement for that company, that's that one of the terms for that is called painting the tape, meaning the ticker tape. You're acting in advance of markets. So there is the potential, and I think we're actually seeing it, of major international players with billions of dollars working against the interests of companies and shorting them, which means that the worse that company's stock falls, the more money they make, which just bleeds the markets dry, and it destroys credibility in financial markets, in stock markets. We, the people, want none of that. We don't want any of it. You shouldn't want any of this stuff. Well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say it so blanketly. There may be some things in here that are doing okay. They might rebound. You may feel differently. You might be okay with, but please just don't just take it at face value and allow whatever sort of broker or financial advisor to funnel you into whatever. We have built some things that are designed to help. So we've got Matt and Drew. I'll put up the Inspire Advisors, Matt and Drew's page at the end of this video. I'll include it for 30 seconds or something. Contact those guys. They will run an impact report for you. They're going to dig around and find this stuff if it's in your portfolio. They're financial planners. The long story made short, as of 4th of July 2024, I allowed my business to effectively shut down because I've been under 28, 29 months now of attack from weaponized regulators. They don't like these shows. They don't like me saying these things. And so they made that known. They attacked me. It was, whatever. I've said it enough in the past. It's awful. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy to go through what we've gone through, them rooting around for 28 months. Anyway, we've got Matt and Drew. Call them up, check those guys out. They're awesome. They firmly believe in Judeo-Christian caring values in American markets. We've got the financial PMA. It's an opportunity for us to build a network of people talking about these kinds of issues. There are PMAs all over the place. You're starting to see private membership associations really flourishing among healthcare practitioners and health sort of the health nuts. I shouldn't say health nuts. The homeopathic types of crowd, people that care about health and nutrition. I'll just put it that way. And you're seeing it in agriculture with like farming co-ops and those sorts of things. So why in the heck wouldn't we do it for finance too? Financialpma.com. Check it out. That's another opportunity to jump into the conversation and work together as a team to communicate. I get a lot of this information and a lot more, and we can help each other. I will be there guiding things to help to go unwoke. Also, check out Steve Coburn if you need insurance. We need to work with people who are not woke. They're not putting our money into these kinds of things, and bad companies that don't value our Judeo-Christian Western values. Steve Coburn's another great resource on the insurance side. We've been talking a lot about banks and banking, depository banks. Old Glory they've gotten my business. No connection or affiliation with Steve Coburn and with Matt and Drew. There is some affiliate service. If you end up working with any of them, some of the profit from that comes back to keep us in business, keep these shows going. With Old Glory Bank, they're just a great bank. I like them, no affiliation. And also, one last piece, my expertise, my area of background is in plan administration for things like 401k plans. For years, on and off Wall Street, I helped build, shape, and create the things. I wrote the documents. We went and worked and interacted with lots of providers, etc. So I helped build the stuff for several decades. That actually is the company that I allowed to be closed by regulators. If you know senior management in a company, or if you have access to the human resources department, I want to bring this unwoke conversation into corporations as well, because I can help your company, that where you work, your employer, to go unwoke in the 401k plan, or at least give some options to invest in that aren't far left, woke-a-doodle, seed funding, leftist, woke companies, causes, and countries. So between all that stuff, that's our parallel economy. That's what we've been building. That's what I have been hard at work at for years now. And we're making some really good progress. We have a cool website that's finally up and running for Financial PMA. We've got podcasts like this, and stay tuned, there's lots more to come. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. I look forward to another episode of unwoke.academy.